Tracker's gonna live the nation, and Spectrum's got such supervision. Mouse is a mighty power that can save the day. Mouse, no one knows what lies behind the mask charade. Mouse, always riding out on Venom's trail. Comes to the laser rays, fire
Hey everybody, it's Bill, and that's Dave from Matt-Trakker.com, and welcome to this episode of Behind the Mask. In this episode, we're going to talk about the figures, and we're going to kind of go over a tier list of this. And tier lists, I've done these in the past with other things like the boxes themselves and things of that nature. But I wanted to have another perspective when I do this because it's fun to be able to kind of go back and forth with where you're going to place these things and why, and eventually land on something that actually makes sense. And before we get into that, though, I wanted Dave to kind of do a quick recap of the episode that he did for us. So, Dave, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Bill. Last time we talked about the mini comics and the promotional comics from the toys. The mini comics obviously came with the toys. They're important because the first issue gives us one of the only U.S. origins of masks. So really great stuff there. They're available free online, so definitely go look up the Mask mini comics online. We also went over the Mask Adventure promo, another really cool mask item that has a lot of pictures of the toys, plus its own little mini comic in there. So just some really cool comic stuff. Next time we're going to go look at the DC U.S. comics.
Oh, cool. And also, too, Dave and I've been thinking about this, and I want Dave's work to have its own title instead of Behind the Mask. Not because I don't like his work, but I feel like if he's going to put the time in to do these episodes and do the recordings and the research, it's a good idea to have that kind of be his own little stamp there. We don't have a name yet, but if you can think of one, he's going to be covering comics a lot. So if you have a name, an idea, post it in the comments. Keep it clean. Remember, this is a PG channel. I had to bleep my wife on the last episode, so just make sure it's PG. But I'm looking forward to more episodes with Dave and covering some of the comic aspects of Mask, because it's just one of those things that I don't really have that vast knowledge of. So I like learning as we go through those, and it's always appreciative to know that. But the main thing of this episode, the figures and where they fall on the tier list. I didn't add a Billboard Blast in as a tier, even though I'm wearing a Billboard Blast shirt. I gave into it and just kind of, I thought this would be a fun promotional thing.
Embrace the evil.
Yeah, keeping Mask alive. I'm wearing a billboard. It's an advertisement of a billboard, and whatever. I had fun making it, so it's. I gotta share the screen here, so hopefully it works. Our video is gonna get smaller, which is fine because nobody wants to see us anyway. So it's gonna
the camera's not.
It's gonna get smaller here, and then we're gonna go into the tiers, and you should be able to. Your video is gonna be probably a little smaller, but you don't have to worry about it too much because I'll talk about what we're looking at.
Okay.
So
I can see it. Okay, so we're good.
Yep. So what we're going to be talking about here is Series 1 right now. We're gonna encompass this in a couple episodes. We're going to be talking about Series 1 through 4, and then also the figure, the adventure packs, the European variant 2 packs, things like that. We're not going to cover Playful because we literally don't know how many there are, and the list could go on for 10 years, essentially. So we're going to start with Series 1, and we're going to rank the figures themselves based off of what, as we go back and forth here. We're going to go right down the line and place them in where we feel like it is. You can agree or disagree. Let us know where you think they should place in the comments. And with that being said, Dave, I'm going to go over the list of what we have here.
Okay.
Obviously, you know who's here, but I also included Scott and T-Bob in here
Yep.
as the package. So we got Cliff Dagger, we got Buddy Hawks, we got Dusty, we got Hondo, Miles, Sly. I know them by first names, really. They're all my friends. So Bruce, we got Scott and T-Bob, Alex, 2 Matt-Trakkers, and Brad Turner.
Brad?
And I think I got everybody up there. Yeah.
Yep. Well, looks like I think I think you got everybody. So
So the
if
unfortunate
we make somebody in the next video, so
the unfortunate thing with this website, this tier maker thing, is that it's very picky with how it does images. Like it squared them off. But we know this.
Mhm.
We can see that's Cliff Dagger. You know.
okay.
And
Cliff Dagger.
that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start with Cliff Dagger. Now
Okay.
we're not really gonna be like, we're not gonna critique the character. We're not gonna, we're not gonna go in depth on that. What we're gonna be talking about is, where do these fit in the pantheon of the actual figures? Like when you're looking at them, what's the better ones out of these? And it's gonna be hard to grade, and it's gonna, the last time I counted, I got 100 figures, I think, on this thing. So it's,
Mhm.
maybe we'll exclude the clones because they are clones. But give me your opinion of the Cliff Dagger figure. I would like you to start it out here.
Okay. Cliff Dagger here. Sculpting on almost all the figures is very nice. He's got a lot of pretty good paint applications on him. The gun is painted. The eye patch is painted. My big problem with Cliff Dagger is he's a little bit short for a stormtrooper, basically. He kind of comes up as, he's supposed to be the muscle of the Venom forces, and he's a little bit small, so that does knock him down a bit for me.
He's almost as tall as Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just put him up against Bruce, and he basically comes up to about Bruce's shoulder, so I always just kind of assumed Dagger would have been a bit taller, a bit bigger. That's like the one downside to this figure. Otherwise, if he was a bit bigger, he would go higher up. So
when I talked about Jackhammer, when I covered Cliff Dagger as an agent profile, I kind of look at it like maybe there was a mistake in the design of Jackhammer, and they had to make Cliff Dagger that small in order to get him to fit inside. Like, because it's very weird, because all the other characters are, except for like Floyd Malloy and naturally Scott and T-Bob, all the other characters are hovering around the same size. But Dagger is, I don't feel like it's a good reflection of the cartoon character itself. The detail is great, but it doesn't feel right in my mind.
yeah, because Floyd and Scott are supposed to be shorter figures, so
yeah. S means like diamond class in these things. You got B, C, and D. Where do you think Cliff Dagger fits here?
I do like the character. I think I'd probably put him in probably this. Let's see, the C category. I'm actually going to go B. It is a definitive version of the character. The shortness does affect it a little bit. That keeps it from going higher up. I think I'm going to give it a solid B rating. It's not as bad as some of the later figures that came out. Outlandishness. I think I really do like him. He's the definitive Cliff Dagger. His masks are very nice. So I'm going to go solid B.
I like your sentiment there. It's obviously not going to be, when we get to split seconds, spoiler, stop listening right now. But spoiler alert, they're going to grade low. And if you're looking at it in that aspect, I think a B is a good spot for Cliff here. I do like his overall package. Like, goes well. It's just, if he was a little bit taller, I think it would have made more sense. And I'm going to move him in there. We're gonna slot him at B. We're going to agree here. All right, good.
We agree with slot B. Sounds great to me. So. And
I've reached out to people at Kenner just to try to get explanations of little things like this, but nobody at Kenner has really gotten back, or people that worked at Kenner. hopefully one day I'm able to talk to somebody there, but I would love to pick their brain about Mask itself. So, what we got next here? We got Mr. Buddy Hawks.
Mhm.
Now, I'll start out on this one here.
Okay.
The character design on Buddy when he's actually in, his full uniform, not in, the mechanic stuff and everything. I love the color that was picked for his character.
Mhm.
Wouldn't think that, a baby blue, kind of like tealish color with the purple, and then a green mask with, different colors of the highlights for being green. You would not think that would work, but it really works well with Buddy. And it's a well put together character. Now the one thing I will say is that the mask, both versions, don't really fit him that well.
No, they don't.
That brings it down a little bit for me, but the character design itself, I really like the overall color scheme that you get out of it. And it's kind of funny because you have this black pants, but then from waist up you got all this weird stuff happening, and it works really well. If the mask fit a little bit better, I would probably grade it pretty high, but for the time being, I'm kind of gonna, and there's no rhyme or reason on when to give the grade, but I would kind of put him in the B category because of the mask. That's my thought right now, but what's your thought on him?
I'm thinking a solid B on this figure. First off, the mask. I will say the only good thing about his mask is it's probably one of the better long masks, because if you're looking at the figure head on, it doesn't look drastically different. Head on, I mean, it's basically just longer in the back, which does help.
Yeah.
That's like, it's probably one of the better long masks in that regard. But the thing is that the mask doesn't really fit on all that well in either version. So I'd say solid B. He doesn't look like he's really wearing much of a uniform. He looks like he's just kind of like just wearing what he was wearing the day he joined up.
But I think that's why I like it. Like, like, he's like, you know what? I'm not wearing that crap. I got this.
Yeah, the figure's a little detailed. I mean, he's got like the detailing on the back of the jacket and everything.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So I'd say solid B grade. I mean, the mask I think is what hurts him. The mask really doesn't integrate well with the uniform, the outfit anyway. I mean, it's just the colors just kind of clash a little bit in that regard. I mean, if you had them all lined up, nobody would guess that would go to that figure. So
yeah,
I'm going to say solid B on him.
All right, we're in agreement. We're 2 for 2. No, we don't fight. We don't have to fight each other yet through the internet, which is good. Next we have Mr. Dusty Hayes, and I'll let you lead off here.
Okay. I generally like Dusty's figure. The one weird departure from the animation model, which I will say, is the goggles on the head. Some of the comics did give him the goggles, but in the cartoon, he didn't have goggles. So the color's good. He's generally well detailed. I do like it's kind of like a uniform. It looks more like maybe a racing kind of outfit. I generally like him. I've always liked him when I was a kid, too, so I liked him as a kid and as an adult. The mask is okay. It fits on well with the long mask. The short mask fits pretty good, too, so I'm going to give it a solid A. He does everything he needs to do, but he doesn't do anything really special to me that puts him over in that S category. So I really like Dusty. So what do you think, Bill?
Well, I have an affinity for orange, being a Flyers fan, so it was always something that kind of resonated to me. But what I always loved about Dusty's figure was that, I mean, aside from what you pointed out already, that the goggles, like, I know in the comics it's a little more prevalent, as you said, but in the cartoon it was like not really there. So it was a little bit weird, but if he's wearing the mask, then you don't really notice it that much. And I think what I do like about this figure is the fact that the short mask and the long mask don't deviate that much, because some of them are complete departures from what they were before. And this one here, I think the longer mask actually strengthens the figure, which is not commonplace for some of these other ones. I'd be a B or A for him. Trying to think of what I'm trying to think of how I can put him in A to match you. Let's see.
What do you think? Do you think he deserves an S rank?
Well, no, I'm in an A or a B. Like I'm in that range. He's not perfect.
He's just not quite to Nirvana yet. He's close. He's really good, but he just has enough wrong with him that it just doesn't quite go up that tier.
I think that because the long mask actually gives him more, that's enough for me to say, you know what, I'm looking at the two figures. I can put him in an A because of that. Because it's not commonplace at all.
I would agree with that. Yeah, usually the shorter masks are the more accurate to the media, so they always seem to be the more popular choice, but they're also the harder to find. So I agree. Like, finding a good long mask is definitely hard.
Speaking of hard to find short masks, it leads us to our next person here, Hondo.
Gee, I wonder.
So, for those of you who don't know, the short mask of Hondo usually goes about $100 right now on eBay. If you're buying it, make sure it's not cut. That is a thing to look out for. Ask in detail for pictures. If the seller doesn't have detailed pictures, ask for them. Hondo, the figure, I love this figure. It's one of my favorites, I would say, out of the entire line, and for weird reasons. The kind of army like look to him in this outfit, short of Blaster 1 and Blaster 2, you know, or short of wearing like, you know, wearing the Hurricane, you know, version of the mask on the outfit, you have this guy who's like, you know, he's really tactical, and you can see that with everything that he has up until, you know, his blaster mask kind of makes it look like he's wearing like, you know, a visor that can see things, like, you know, kind of like it all blends together really well. Like it's like binoculars or something like that. And he's got binoculars on his chest. It's such a well-designed figure for a character that has not been well defined by Kenner or DIC over the years. So for me, because of that aspect and the really good detail, I would give him a B, even though it's one of my favorite ones. But the reason why I don't go higher is because of the mask, you know, the mask option here. His Blaster 1 mask, literally, you lose it in 5 seconds. The you know, and in the version 2 of the Blaster 1 mask, it just doesn't look right. It really takes away from what Blaster 1 short version looks like on that figure. The other version just looks so out of place because it doesn't match anything that you've seen in anything. So I give him a B for this one. I don't know about you.
I was thinking maybe a little bit higher, but I'm leaning maybe towards B now. Hondo I really like for a lot of the same reasons. Without the mask on, he looks great. I love the military attire. He's very no nonsense. He's just something I could see a mask agent or somebody in this kind of line of work wearing. I love the binoculars. I love the little detail it has. The Blaster 1 mask, I mean, it looks nice, but they are just so rare, so uncommon, so hard to get. The longer mask of it isn't too bad to me, but personally, I think I'm going to go with B2. The mask, it just doesn't quite.
Like I said, it's one of my favorites, but it's just
Yeah.
You have to take the it's like I said, we're not judging the character. We're looking at the design of the figure and all that stuff, and unfortunately, it's all part of it. It's like
the mask, unfortunately, is the thing that brings him down. I mean, if he had a better mask, I think he would be up in the A range. So, but you have to take the figure as a package, so it is what it is.
Unfortunately for Hondo, he's got that going. So we got 1A and 3 Bs. So you get off with somebody named Miles Mayhem, I think.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with this character, not at all. So Switchblade Miles Mayhem. I consider him to be the definitive version of Miles Mayhem. He's actually one of my favorite figures of all time. Short mask version, I think, captures the character perfectly. The mask fits on pretty well, integrates really well. A lot of detail on the figure, the medals, the belt buckle, the details, the band. It's just like he just looks great. The one thing he does suffer on, I don't think he has a very good long mask with the open face on it. I think it ruins the illusion. So he's definitely the one you want to get the short mask one for. Just because it is so iconic and so good to the character, I'm going to consider putting this one up in the S range. The detail on the medals and everything, they do sometimes tend to wear off a little bit, some examples. But I just feel like he's just such a great Miles Mayhem figure. He's just so iconic. There's other great Miles Mayhems, but he's the one I think who defines the character. I think he just looks good with that short mask on, and he's just one of my favorites personally. So what do you think, Bill?
Well, before I get into that, I do want to bring up that if you haven't done so already, there's a GoFundMe for Brendan Mccain, who voiced Miles Mayhem. He's battling some difficult times right now with cancer, and they're trying to get to a certain point in the GoFundMe. I'll have a link in the description. And for those of you who don't know, Vanessa Warfield and Miles Mayhem are married in real life. Sharon Noble and Brendan McCain. So if you can help our childhood heroes, please do so. If you can't make a monetary donation, please share it around the best you can, and hope for a speedy recovery. So Miles Mayhem. So you pretty much stole everything that I was going to say. I don't know how they got the detail on this figure. The medals, as you said, the little viper like sign like on those masks, the straps that are going on his uniform. It's kind of hard to imagine how that came to be, and who the hell had a steady enough hand to also to make this a prototype first to then put in production. It's like who did that? But when you look at the figure, you see the cartoon character. Like I'm looking at it right now and I see Miles Mayhem. If I was watching the cartoon and holding this up, I can be stuck. I can be brought into that illusion. Even as a 38-year-old man. So, but no, the detail on the medals, down to the stars on his lapel. It's hard to argue where this figure should fall. And for me, as you said, there's other versions of Miles Mayhem that are still good, but this one here is not only the definitive Miles Mayhem, but this might be one of the definitive figures in the entire series. So I'm fine with the S category for Miles here, and not just because Miles is awesome, and also because he appeared in the most episodes, but it's a figure worth having. And you said that if you're going to you should get the short mask. We should get both masks. get both and be crazy like us.
Yeah, we do both. But the short mask is definitely the one that's the more iconic one. I just don't like how it's open in the front.
I know, but I'm
it doesn't ruin the figure. The figure's so strong. Get both. Yep, both is good.
Yeah, get both. So now we jump into a character. So this is Sly Rax, and a lot of when I talk to people about Mask in person, through through the YouTube comments or through email and everything else, a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth that I get is, what was your first vehicle? And I touched on this in an episode too. It was either Condor or Piranha. So a lot of people have a really special affinity to the Sly Rax figure because that's what they had. And it was easier to get. It didn't cost as much. It was probably like $5.99 or whatever it was. I did an episode on that too. I just don't remember the prices. It was one of the ones that you could obtain if you were behaving yourself, essentially. And so I'm going to talk about Sly Rax first without the long mask. I want to talk about with the short mask. The character design on the short mask with the overall package of Sly Rax here, right down to that face that looks exactly like that character, like I can hear that voice right now looking at it. And a lot of the same detail that went into Miles Mayhem, I can see it here on this figure. It goes straight down to the the holster on his leg, and not many people know this, but his jacket is a kind of a it's kind of a greener color. It doesn't always come out that way in the cartoon. Sometimes it's a little different, but you can see that variation, that slight tint color on this. It's 100% accurate to what you're looking at. The short mask version of Sly Rax would be an S for me. But then you look at the long version, and we have to do that because of this. The long version covers up so much detail on his uniform. Like it covers up half his torso. So you lose a lot of that. So that's going to bring it down for me to an A or a B, depending on your assessment here. But yeah, it's just, it covers up so much. It's such a shame that it does that. What do you think?
Okay, so Sly Rax, I mean, I kind of agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, the figure is exceptionally well detailed, well painted, the chains, the grenades, the looks like the latches on the jacket, all painted up nicely. Little details, like you don't even notice, like there's a knife in his boot, for example. I mean, really nice. The short mask version is definitely the way to go on this because it covers up so much. I completely agree. The one thing I slightly don't like about the figure is I know why they did it this way. He has a little bit of gorilla arm syndrome where he's kind of got his hands down in a natural pose, which obviously was done so he could look natural sitting in Piranha. That slightly brings it down to me a little bit. Doesn't ruin the figure for me. I'm thinking a solid B on the figure. I mean, I really like Sly Rax. I really love the figure.
No,
but I just feel like the long mask and the arms kind of mess it up just a little bit.
Well, I was AB. That's where I was thinking. And I didn't even think of that with the arms. But that long mask, it's just...
Yeah, the long mask, I think, is what really does him in.
I think Sly, even though we love you, even though all these pictures have your head cut off, I'm going to give you a B, Sly. All right, you got Bruce Otto here.
Okay. This one's really hard for me because when I was a kid, this was my favorite figure. Okay. Bruce drove Rhino, so Bruce was like my favorite figure because Rhino was my favorite toy. So this one is really hard for me. The design of the figure is really nice. Well detailed. It looks like he's wearing some padding. The boots and everything are padded. Nothing really stands out about him though. He does everything that he needs to do, but he doesn't really feel like he excels to me. I've always really liked the mask. It always kind of, to me, had a kind of a gas mask look to it. And it just looked kind of like something that looked a little more plausible in design. It didn't look outlandish. It just looked like it looked right to me. The long mask is okay. I feel like the shorter one's definitely the way to go on this one. My love for Bruce Otto does give him a point. It's not quite A range. I'm kind of between A and B on him, so I'm a little bit biased on Bruce here. So I'm kind of in the A/B range. So what do you think, Bill?
So the one thing I will say about as I said, like I have an affinity for orange, but one thing I really love about the short mask version of this is that it's hard. It's going to be hard for me to show it here. I'm going to superimpose it when I edit the video. The way that the mask fits directly onto like his uniform, like how it fits on the figure, it conforms to it perfectly. It slides right on, and it doesn't. It hits the it hits all the points right there, and it's just straight on it. It's one of the better designed masks to figure like out of the series, I think, out of all of them. But then you have to look at series, the long version. So the long version, while, as you said, Bruce has some detail, but it's not like really intricate detail. Like with Sly Rax, you're covering up a lot of stuff. The long version of Bruce takes away from that allure of how perfect the short version fits, and then you have that other version. It's not like I'm looking at it going, oh God, get away from me. But you can't compare the two. It's just, it's hard to do. And we're leading off with something hard because we have to compare two figures and then make a decision on it based off of that, because or two masks essentially, because that's what we have, that's what we have to do here. It'll get easier, especially when we get to split seconds, because they're all going to be, down at the bottom probably. But
don't worry, we're going to do people that was split seconds soon enough.
I have a hard time with this one, because as you said, it's Bruce Otto. He drove Rhino, right? And it was a popular figure, and it still is.
And it is the definitive version of the figure. So if you get one Bruce Otto in your collection, this is the one you want to get.
Yes. Although I don't mind the rest one either.
That one is a very good one too. So
Dynamo, you can if you don't want to collect everything, don't get that one. But I'm giving away all kinds of stuff for a future episode. I'm sorry. This one's hard. This one is hard. Because of how perfect I think that the original, the short version mask fits with him, I'm willing to go with an A on this one, overlooking the flaws of the long mask. But if you're not willing to go A, I am willing to settle for B.
I think we'd just go A on him. We'll do this for Young Dave. Young Dave would want him to have an A, so let's go with that.
All right. Well,
my younger self is pleased.
About to send me a picture of Young Dave. I'll put him up there and have him be happy, jumping around or something.
Yep, I have to get some pictures from my parents' house of me opening mask toys on Christmas morning sometime. So that'll be a future episode where we go through them.
I got there's some good ones posted of me up on a couple different spots where I'm opening up Boulder Hill, and I got my first Thunderhawk, and I'm wearing like bright yellow pajamas, and I look like Big Bird essentially. But who let off last night? Was that me or you? I forget. That was me, right? So you get Scott and T-Bob. Now this is the package. It's a shitty package. Oh, bleep.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about Scott and T-Bob. But it's not the worst. But you're going to start this off, so please do.
Okay, so Scott and T-Bob. The first problem with the Scott figure is, as I'm just going to call it out, they really needed to paint the shirt. It's sculpted, but you can see the design on it, but they didn't paint it. So that instantly knocked it down a few points in my book on the Scott figure. it's a decent representation of the character in the sculpt, but he has no knee articulation. He's not articulate in the knee, so he can't really sit in a vehicle all that well, maybe aside from Thunderhawk, where he can just kind of sit normally. I don't feel like Scott's the worst figure. If you're collecting the figures, you do kind of want to get Scott. Then there's T-Bob. I remember getting this toy as a kid. And I just remember looking at T-Bob and being like, that doesn't look anything like the cartoon. And I don't remember having that thought about anything else in the line. He just doesn't match the animation model. And while I know we're just judging the figure as it is, he's very tall. In basically almost every medium, T-Bob is shorter than Scott. This one, he's way too tall.
He's as tall as
for what he is.
It's
Yeah. And the wheels, it just doesn't match. He's just kind of, his arms just kind of point out to the side. I really have fond memories of getting him as a kid, and I kind of liked him as a kid. But I just feel like it's a poor match.
What a cynical Dave in his, in his later years think. Like, that's what you got to think
Cynical Dave. I mean, I'm going to think about putting him towards the D category. I just feel like I really liked him as a kid. You probably do want to get him for your collection, but I feel like if you can go with like one of the Shapeways T-Bobs to go with Scott, like this guy here.
Yeah, got mine. Yeah, I was just gonna grab it. You did it, but I'm gonna, like I said, when we edit. Yep.
We'll superimpose them. If you get a Shapeways T-Bob to go with Scott, I think it does vastly improve the package.
It does.
For the display. Scott's not too bad, but I think T-Bob really just drags it down. He doesn't match anything in the show. And I know we're just trying to judge the figures on their own, but you have to accept that there is media associated with this, and I feel like in and of himself, T-Bob just kind of brings it down. So I do apologize to your wife. I know it's her favorite, but I'm sorry, but the pedestal's coming down on poor T-Bob.
Where are you placing them? Where do you see him?
I'm going to place him in the between C and D. He's not the absolute worst thing in the toy line, but he's down at the bottom.
Yeah. So as they came as a package. So that's why we're judging them as a package. And the one thing I will say about that, well, as you pointed out already, he's not painted fully. And I could easily just grab a marker and finish it off, but I don't want to do that because that's not the way it should be. I have no problem with Scott's mold. I appreciate the fact that they incorporated that figure into the line where it's everything else, and then they're like, oh crap, let's get this Scott figure in here too. It helped me and you and everybody else, well, except for any girls, because no girls were in this really. It helped us, as in the cartoon, like they tried to do. They tried to put that character in that made you and I and everybody else feel like we were more connected. And this figure, I do talk badly about Scott and T-Bob a lot, but I do actually like this figure of Scott. It's easy to hate it because it's Scott, but I don't hate it, which I know sounds kind of weird. But then when we get to T-Bob, I like T-Bob better as a character, but this figure, when you look at all the other ingenuity of the mask line, and I know this is a lot smaller of a package to deal with, it really feels out of place and doesn't really showcase the the ingenuity and the creative minds that worked at Kenner on this figure. It's almost like it just kind of is like happenstance really, and it's just, oh, who cares? Just put it in there, do it. Him being as tall as Scott throws it off a little bit. When you're talking about proportions, though, for this, it's hard to do. Like, this is also about 1985 standards of things, and you kind of got to give them a little bit of leeway on that. But when you look at all the other stuff they produced, and you kind of got to think about that. If T-Bob was if T-Bob was a little bit better packaged, this could have been a really cool figure set. But because of the fact that he's so, I'm trying to think of the word without sounding too harsh. It's off-putting, to say the least.
Yeah.
And but also I don't feel that this will be the worst of this that we're going to review and look at. Because Scott, I feel, is Scott, if you're, Scott really works well if you have him in the back of Firecracker and you pull, do a quick turn, he flies right out of it, just like a Mccain. So I recommend that. I would go C for this. If T-Bob wasn't what he is at this point, it could have easily been an A, to be honest. But T-Bob is such a weak figure. I feel like a C is a solid spot to put him. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think C is good because T-Bob, I think, was designed after the fact.
That's what I think.
He probably saw the cartoon and like, okay, let's slap something together to kind of match it. There are UK comics that do have a toy accurate T-Bob, and they are definitely kind of frightening. So I'll definitely post some of those online at some point. So.
No, I agree with that, and it really is a shame, to be honest, because it could have been so much better. But you can't hit home runs on everything. I mean, people are blessed. Come on. Sometimes you swing and miss. It just happens.
Yeah.
But now we have Alex Sector. So if you weren't one of the few lucky ones that could afford Boulder Hill when you were younger, not you yourself, but your parents, if they cared about you enough, they got it for you and all that, right? But you can get them in the 2-pack, eventually. Alex Sector was a hard figure to really come by. If you didn't have Boulder Hill, it just kind of bypassed you, really. And not a lot of kids had Boulder Hill when they were younger. So it makes it a little bit harder to kind of think about that, where it was easier to obtain the other vehicles. And same thing with Buddy. It makes it hard to really judge it because of the fact. But Alex is kind of a unique situation here because I'm trying to think of, and as I was just saying, like, I'm trying to think of a way to not sound harsh, but his character was so boring, and I'm not judging the character, but when I look at Alex, I see the same thing. Like I look at the character and I see a boring figure, and I don't know why. You have grays and blues and the brown, that all works well, and you have the the red hair on the goatee and the beard, but it just seems kind of lackluster for me for some reason. The short mask version of it is hands down better than the long version, because it covers up too much, not a lot of detail, but it covers up a lot. And aside from the fact that if you had Alex when you were younger, it meant that you were really lucky. There's just not much going on here. The one thing I will say is that I really appreciate the detail of his sleeves. Like, his sleeves are pushed up, and you can see that detail in the figure itself. That's hard to do in anything, really, and you can see it in this figure. And I do appreciate that fact. You see the waves in it. You see, like, it all bunched up. That's a pretty cool aspect. If I'm gonna say that, like, it's not like my favorite figure. It's not it's obviously not gonna be an S. I'm like a C or a B right here for Alex, only because I look at it. I'm not really inspired by anything with it. I know it sounds really bad to say. I don't know why I feel that way, but I just do. How about you, Dave?
I'm going to preface and say Alex is my wife's favorite character in all of Mask.
Okay.
So I can't say anything really too bad about the character at all. So.
My wife likes T-Bob. I mean, come on.
So he does get an extra point for that in my book. So he's my wife's favorite. So I'm definitely going to echo what you said. The shorter mask is the way to go on it. I was a lucky kid. I had Boulder Hill as a kid. But it was nice they did release these figures later on in 2-packs. Yeah. So if you couldn't afford Boulder Hill, you could at least get some of these figures.
2-packs.
And I had a couple.
They were like $3. The 2-packs when they were retailed, they were $3. $1.50 a figure. That's crazy. Think about it.
I remember the kid broke Hondo, and my parents got me the Hondo 2-pack, and I was happy as a clam. Hondo's back in my collection, so. I love the 2-packs. I mean, that was a great thing Kenner did. So we actually could get these characters if you weren't lucky to get the sets. In my case, I was, but I know not every kid was that lucky. So I kind of like Alex. I mean, I feel like he does match the animation model quite well. The beard is nice. He does have some nice detailing on the pocket and everything. But I kind of go with what Bill says. There's really nothing that jumps out in the figure. There's no real exceptional detail. You look at Buddy Hawks, who came with him in Boulder Hill. His Walkman's painted. He's got a little more different flashes of color. His hat. He's not a bad figure. He is the definitive version of Alex. If you get one Alex sector, get the short mask version. He matches the animation models brilliantly. I actually do like the character. I'm going to say a solid B on the figure, just because he is my wife's favorite. we put that out there.
I can agree with the B.
But I think he just defines Alex. He defines the character quite well. He doesn't do anything wrong, but he just doesn't do anything to elevate him to those higher standards. If he had a little bit more detail, he had a little more to do, I think he could get a higher tier from me, but as he stands, that's just where he's at. So,
okay,
it is what it is.
And I let off with Alex there. So what I just did real quick was I switched up to Brad Turner. I figured we'll cover the trackers last.
Okay, so, that makes total sense.
So you're on Brad Turner right now, Dave.
Okay, Brad Turner, who is releasing a 2-pack also with Bruce. Short mask. So, I'm just going to drop that on the floor.
Don't choke on that mask. Don't choke on it.
Yeah, I know. I was the kid that you had to change it for because, I choked on all the masks, because, good mask. So, Brad Turner, he's bright yellow with the purple gloves, the mask. I really like this figure. In a display of mask figures, you will always notice Brad. I like the yellow. I like the coloring. A lot of nice detailing. I mean, the purple and yellow is a little bit weird to me, but I really like the figure. The long mask and short mask both work pretty well. I like the short mask better because the long mask has a tendency to scuff up the chest a little bit, and that can be problematic on Brad Turner's.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine right now here with the long mask, and the chest is just like the big purple piece in the middle is just worn out completely.
Yeah, I have one in my collection where with the short mask, he has never to put the long mask on. So I have one that's kind of scuffed up already. That one gets the long mask.
No, that's exactly what I did too. I was like, you get that one. That's for you. Yeah.
Yep. He's got interesting things on his collar. He's got some detail painted. I really like the figure. I just feel like he stands out in a collection. I'm actually going to give the figure an A. I think he's a very nice figure. He might be in the B range. I could probably be tempted for that one. But I think he stands out really nicely. I always like the yellow on him. That you always can basically pick him out of the lineup really quick because he just stands out compared to all the other figures. So what do you think, Bill?
So as I said, with Sly Rax, what you have is you have definitive memories of Brad Turner because everybody had Condor first too. It was one of the two. And as you said, the yellow really pops and stands out. When they're designing these figures, if you I have the shelf here, and if you have the figures in front of you right now, you're looking at Series 1. What's the pattern you're seeing there? there's nothing really bright there. You know, there's nothing really stands out. It's all mostly muted. I'm looking over here. I mean, the colors are there, but it's not like it's like jumping out at you. When you look at Brad Turner in the if you look at it through a line of everything, you're going, oh, there's Brad Turner right there. I like the purple and the yellow. I think it actually works very well. The one thing I don't like about the figure is the glasses, the way they did the sunglasses.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would have done it any better, but it feels like he's wearing Dusty's goggles essentially.
Yeah, because it does have a strap on the back, which is kind of blends into the hair.
Yeah, I don't remember him wearing anything like that. It was always just sunglasses. So that's a little bit of like a deterrent for me. But
I can do that.
When I look at this figure, it makes me remember it makes me remember the fact that this one here, it might have been one of the only figures that kids had. And it might have been one of the only ones that they still have. The long mask, as you said, it really does scrape up. I don't know why it does it for him most often, but that's one of the traits of that long mask. It doesn't really do it for the other figures, but because the purple plate is such a big area to land in, just pulls it right off. So Brad Turner for me, short mask obviously is the way to go. And be advised too, some of these short masks, some of them are squishy, some of them are hard. I don't know why. It's just they're not rarer. They're not. It's just the way that the mold was done. So don't think that you have you found gold or something because it's not squishy or something like that. Mine is squishy, so I have gold here. I just did not follow my own advice, but no, it's if the glasses were actual sunglasses, I give it an S, but I can go for an A on this one.
I'm gonna say let's go for A on this one. I just think it's just such a wonderful figure, so A it is.
All right. So who you got here? You got Mr. Ultra Flash.
All righty. I won't say this is the definitive version of Matt-Trakker, but it's my personal favorite Matt-Trakker.
That's interesting.
I just like the way the figure looks with the short mask on. It integrates so well with the figure. It's the mask that's on the mask logo.
Yes.
The color's nice. He came with Rhino, so again, Rhino was my favorite toy, so the Matt-Trakker that goes with Rhino goes up a point to me. I think he's really good. Nice detailing. Very, very good. It matches the show model perfectly. The problem with the figure, I think, that it's not the definitive Matt-Trakker, though. I think it's a solid A figure. He does nothing wrong, but I feel like he just doesn't do anything exceptional. I don't really care for the long mask. It covers up all the detailing. It just doesn't look good on the figure. It's probably one of the most clunky long masks there is. So I still want to give the figure kind of an A, B range. He is my favorite personal Matt-Trakker, so I won't let that guide me. But being objective about him, he is very nice. He does everything he needs to do, but he doesn't do anything remarkably. So that's my opinion on this one. Bill, what do you think?
So this might come as a shock, but I actually agree with, I think that this Rhino figure, I think, even though it's not the definitive Matt-Trakker figure, I like this one more, and I have to lead off on Spectrum one next, but I like this one more than the Spectrum figure. I feel I feel like it was more not comic accurate. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about comics with your portion of the thing. I think it was more cartoon accurate, and it is on the mask itself. And the points that I'll make for the other one later, they're not going to resonate the same way. The detail that you have with this figure, it's on par with Miles Mayhem for me.
Mhm.
It's got intricate spots where it's really, you can see the detail in it. The short mask version of it, I mean, aside from Bruce, I think this is probably the best fitting one out of the series for the short versions of them. The long version does take some away from me for that aspect, but when I think about all the Matt-Trakker figures, this one here ranks pretty high for me, even though Ultra Flash is, here's a bright light, that's all it is. This one here, I would go for an A, actually, because of how intricate that it gets on his vest, and the bunching of on his legs. There's a lot of things going on there that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm at. I'm landing on an A for this figure.
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right. So now I get to lead off with Spectre Matt-Trakker. You get to finish with this. So
no pressure.
all right. So obviously this would be the definitive Matt-Trakker figure. And spoiler, this is not my favorite Matt-Trakker figure. So sorry to say that. The Spectrum version of Matt-Trakker is very accurate. It does everything that it's supposed to do. It kind of, and this is going to sound really weird, this version, even though this is the definitive version, it kind of feels the same way for me that Alex does, where it's like, there he is, and he's there. Like, it doesn't really scream anything to me. I know that like a lot of the artwork that I have is that version, but when I look at this, and when I look at it on the cartoon, it feels different. This figure, I feel like it's not fully there, and I think I have maybe a high expectation for it because of who it is in the namesake. The short mask version that doesn't really fit that well. It falls off all the time, in my experience anyway. And the long mask gives you this weird kind of extra like tubes on it, which came out of nowhere. So that doesn't equate to anything that we're really looking at. If I'm going to grade this figure, I would go with a B because of those factors. That's my standpoint here. And I know it might be kind of weird coming from Matt-Trakker.com, but the figure itself, and I've never talked about this figure really, or Thunderhawk. So this is kind of the first dive in to kind of get in my psyche with this. So hopefully I didn't upset anybody, but it's not my favorite, and it's not Miles Mayhem level, in my opinion. Miles Mayhem .com is coming soon, by the way. So, but I know it sounds kind of weird. Some of the things I do like about it, I do like the detail on the belt, like the straps going around everywhere. But it's just like I think I expect more out of the figure, and I think that's where I'm kind of let down because of expectation on my side. Hopefully that makes sense. How about you?
I want to echo a lot of things you said. One, it matches the animation model very well. It's super iconic. Like when we've gone and looked at the G.I. Joe figure, this is the one they based him on. I like the figure, but he doesn't do anything remarkable. The mask always, to me, it always looked like kind of like the small mask looked small on his head. Weirdly enough, I actually do kind of like the tubes on the mask, because as a kid I thought, whoa, it's a new mask, and the tubes make it more powerful somehow. It made sense as a kid, so
It's kid
more powerful. Yeah, so I actually don't mind the tubes. If you do get a version of the figure, you want to go short mask, just because it's the iconic look from the cartoon. He's nicely detailed. He paints everything he needs to have painted. He does everything he needs to do, but he's kind of remarkable for being totally unremarkable. So I want to give the figure a higher grade. I really do. But I think, Bill, you were spot on with giving it a B. It's good. It does everything it needs to, but we have a lot more expectation of it because it's the definitive Matt-Trakker. You definitely want this one in your collection.
This feels weird.
But it's just like, it's when you see the figures all together, he's not the one you're instantly drawn to.
Adam, it's nothing personal. No,
yeah.
That's series 1. That's where we're at right now. So we have Miles Mayhem being a perfect figure, and Scott being C, and everything else in between.
Nothing D yet, so but we still have lots more figures to cover. So I think we'll fill that D spot with something soon.
Well, I do find it interesting that we went that way. Hold on, I gotta stop sharing my screen here. What happened? I just lost everything for a second. There we go. All right. There we are. Sorry.
There we go.
No, everything just like my computer's been acting really weird lately. So that was series 1. I feel good about where we ranked everything. I still feel a little weird about where I put Matt, the Spectrum.
Yeah, that one's going to probably keep me up for nights on end. We may have to re-edit the video and move them up sometime.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be truthful.
The objective.
I'm trying to be fair, essentially, with it. And it's kind of where I'm at with it. Before we close out on this first version of the tier list here, do you have any other insight you want to put in here?
No. For the most part, I think the short masks almost will always win against the long masks.
Yeah.
With the exception of maybe Dusty, the short masks, I see why they're so popular with fans. They were only available with the toys, and I think only for a short time in the U.S. I might be wrong on that, but they're the ones everybody wants. So definitely the short masks was something with this. With going on, we really won't have to worry about the long and short mask debate as much.
Yeah.
I really don't think there's any other long or short masks as far as I'm aware. So I could be wrong, but
not that I know of. I mean, some of the models, like if you look at the Billboard Blast Dusty, it follows the same long mask.
Yeah.
Gator.
I don't think they would change that model for Billboard Blast in this show. I think they used a little of the same model. And for Sly Rax and Alex Sector, I think they just probably just all the model.
They were like, you know what, just throw some different.
Just color it differently, it's fine.
Color them differently. I don't care. I have a headache. You sitting in a billboard. Who cares? Come on. Let's just get the show done. Come on. But
Dusty's like,
it's in Alex. The mask was the same color. He just had a yellow outfit. I think, yellow. So. Yep.
Yeah, and Sly Rax had his Hits Up Catapult outfit with the red jacket, I believe. It was red. Red.
And we're gonna grade them soon. But,
so we'll talk about those later. So.
But I appreciate you hopping on for a little while with me, and
not a problem.
Looking forward to figuring out a name for your branch on the channel. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
But in the comments, let us know how you feel about where we placed everybody. Naturally, opinions are your own, and everybody's opinion, you're entitled to it. And I love hearing about how you feel about certain things. So please let me know in the comments. Please let Dave know in the comments, what you're thinking. And always keep it PG. I have to edit some things out here, but until next time, that's Dave. Oh, that's Dave. I don't know how I'm going to be pointing on the camera when I edit. So
That's it. Yep.
I'm Bill. Please like, comment, and subscribe to help keep Mask alive. And we'll talk to you later.